Welcome back into the Morning Rush, going right to the phone lines where former Razorback, former Butler Bulldog, and current pro basketball player Rotnei Clarke is now with us. Rotnei, I appreciate you carving out some time for us this morning, man.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you having me.
For those who don't know what your life has been like the last couple of weeks, can you kind of update on what's gone on with you and your family?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to make it as short as I can. It's actually kind of a long story, but, we probably the first week of March, my family, I made a decision. I was in Italy, and actually the epicenter of all the coronavirus at that point in northern Italy. And we had heard about some cases in late February and didn't really think much of it. It was only 2 or 3 cases in a town pretty close to us. It was like an hour away from us. And, within a couple, we kept going to practice, and within a couple of days, the cases had rose from 2 or 3 to 70 to 100 in 2 days. So that kind of put everyone on alert, and they ended up completely locking down and quarantining at this town that was close to us. It was about an hour away, and that made us a little nervous at first, and just because it was so close to us. And so we thought, okay, it's not that big of a deal. They got it quarantined, they got it under control, and the next thing you know, it's the cases are rising, and all of a sudden they're talking about canceling a game during the week. So, players are still, we're going to practice, still doing all that, thinking, okay, no big deal. They're just going to cancel one game. We'll get all this handled. And then it just kind of kept going on a downslide from there, just canceled games. And then we had meetings with the team, and they had canceled some practices. They kept us out of the gym until it got to a point to where I was heading actually to practice one day, and there was talk of them completely quarantining our entire region that we lived in at that time. So that's when I kind of, my wife and I really had to make a decision there. We were thinking about getting them out, but we wanted to stay together as a family. And, that night my GM had messaged me about, 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, and said, hey, if you're trying to get your family out, they need to get out tonight because they're about to red zone and lock down the entire region that we lived in.
You've had quite.
So we packed up.
Go ahead. No, I said you've had quite an eventful couple of weeks, man. I think you made the smart decision on that front. For
sure, yeah. So we packed them up within 2 hours and got them to the airport, and I had to get them out of there. And then I made the decision to come. They actually kind of told me, hey, you just need to go home and be with your family. I was going to wait it out and see what they were going to do with the league and with the season. And so I came home about a week later, and here we are now, and they just officially canceled the season a couple days ago. So it was a crazy 2 weeks with that. But it's been nice being back home and being with family and being around the people that that mean the most to me.
Kind of back to simpler times, Rotnei. What do you think the biggest difference is from playing overseas against professional basketball players to playing college ball in the U.S.?
It's really it's tough because it's if you're playing against grown men, obviously, number one, you hear a lot of guys, a lot of the college teams come over and play, certain professional teams thinking that it's going to be, a cakewalk, whatever, and they walk in, it's a completely different deal. Like just, it's just you're playing against grown men compared to what you were in college, and it was a big adjustment for me. And then, it's so much harder to get into the paint and do different things, and because the whole, the key is just it's all closed up. A lot of teams over there just pack it in, and force me outside, which sometimes benefits me, but it's just a different style of play as well. And I think that's the biggest change is just going from college or going from, when you look at the NBA also and it's just a completely different style of play.
Rotnei, I want to go back to your high school days, and we're speaking with Rotnei Clarke here on the Morning Rush. At one point in time, you were chucking up 500 three-pointers, 250 free throws a day. For maybe some high schoolers listening or some middle schoolers listening that are trying to make it at the next level or have eventual aspirations to play college ball, what's your biggest piece of advice that you have, man?
I would say, it's for me, number one, it was my faith. I mean, just having faith, and, faith for me was in God and faith in myself, just your heart, your work ethic, and you're going to get what you put into it. And I honestly and I truly believe that. I was doubted a lot, coming out of high school and told I was too small or wasn't going to be able to do this, wasn't going to be able to play at the next level because, whatever reasons I was lacking. And I just kept working, kept my head down, used all that as motivation and put in the work. And I was blessed, and that work eventually paid off, and it just kept going and it keeps going from there. And I still have it develops your work ethic. It shows your character, and you just people tell you certain things. Just keep working hard, and good things will happen.
I've heard stories about your senior year, the 2008 state finals. It's still crazy how Oklahoma people talk about that. Is it still the highest attended state basketball game in the history of Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think it is by far. Yeah,
wow.
It was one of the craziest experiences. Obviously, I've been in some crazy environments.
Yeah.
Throughout my career, but that being in high school, being a 17, 18-year-old kid, and we're warming up in the state finals. We had made it to the state semifinals 3 years in a row before that got beat. So that was a big game for us, being in the finals, having a chance to win it. And it was also the scoring record. The scoring record was all that was going on. And people just wanted to see that last game. And, I just remember they wouldn't let anyone in before the game just because there were so many people outside. And I just remember warming up, and then they finally opened up the gates, and there wasn't like assigned seating with tickets, so people just rushed in, sprinting to seats. And I just remember seeing that, and the crowd was over 14,000, 15,000 almost. And
you had 25, and you guys won? Is that correct?
I honestly don't remember how many points I had. I know we won. I know it was 25, 30, somewhere in there. But yeah, we just won. I just remember that was the only thing that mattered to me at that point was, my uncle was my head coach, and I just wanted to be able to win a state championship for him and the school. And so that was the first state championship we brought to that school. So that was pretty cool.
Ronnie, remind me, who were you competing with for the scoring title that year? I'm forgetting his name.
His name's Keaton Page. He's actually my childhood best friend. We were best men at our weddings, and he came in second. So
how about that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, friendship, a really strong bond and friendship, and to see us go 1 and 2 in the state scoring is pretty crazy.
Man, and if I remember correctly, he's an Oklahoma State guy. That's where he went to school.
Yes, he's actually coaching there now. So.
Okay, that's awesome. My aunt went to Oklahoma State. She's a big-time Cowboys fan, and I've got a chance to watch and go to a couple games, both football and basketball, and I know him from that, just watching him play.
Yeah, he's a good player. Defied the odds, kind of like me.
Short guys that could stroke it. He's a good couple inches shorter than you, right?
Yeah, he's probably 5'8", 5'9" at the most. Yeah, so he really did some great things, in college to be the size that he was.
Ronnie, despite you being small, you had offers from all over the country. What was the biggest reason you ended up in Arkansas Razorback?
I'd say if I had to point out the biggest reason, it'd probably be the fact that I knew, some of those other schools, bigger schools like North Carolina, some of those places were offering me, but I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to go in and make an impact immediately or play immediately. And as a true freshman, so I knew going to Arkansas that I had a chance. Pat Beverly was there, so I probably was going to come off the bench at that point until that happened, and I actually took on a bigger role. But I knew I was going to have a chance to come in and get good minutes and quality minutes and actually have a chance to impact, the team. And there was other things, like I had family here, and with Coach Pelfrey, I really trusted him coming in and just different little things like that. But I think that I wanted to go, and I wanted to be able to have a chance to play as a freshman, and it worked out. I mean, being able to start as a freshman was pretty cool too.
Ronnie, what was the better win in 2008, the win over Oklahoma or the win over Texas?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I would probably say Texas, but it's hard for me because I was an Oklahoma boy, so that was a big game for me to be able to win that. And I still think about those games today. I mean, those two games were the craziest atmospheres I've ever been a part of. I mean, I remember playing in that Texas game and literally just looking down and just taking it in for a second, looking at the floor and remember it just vibrating. Like it was some crazy. That was a crazy week of basketball. I think we beat them in the same week actually, so that was pretty cool.
Now, did you play against the Griffin brothers in high school as well?
Yeah.
Okay, y'all did.
Yeah.
How many times did you get to play them in high school?
I think I played them 2 times. They beat us in the state semifinals one year, and then we beat them in another just random tournament throughout the year that next year. So, but yeah, I had a chance to play them twice.
Okay, so you knew early on how ferocious and how much of a player Blake Griffin was for playing in high school days.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
We're talking with Rotnei Clarke here on the Morning Rush. Rotnei, I want to get into this next conversation because I think it's important to you and kind of how your basketball career played out. They're going to vote on the transfer rule in college sports. They pushed it back to next month, and it's going to be a one-time thing where if you're in a good academic standing, there's no disciplinary issues, and there's one other thing, you get a one-time transfer eligible played immediately. As a guy
wow, I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, so I think you'd be interested because the guys that did transfer, I'm assuming you'd be on board with this as a former college athlete.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, especially because that year that I knew going in, it was kind of a double a thing for me that was, I wanted one thing, but it ended up being better for me. Like, obviously I would have wanted to step in and play immediately, and that's going to be great if they do decide on that for those guys, just because that year sitting out is just awful.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with a guy like me just constantly. I mean, I guess it helped me because I was just constantly in the gym, but I wasn't allowed to travel. I was at a new school that I didn't really know anyone yet, so that year was a really hard year for me just in terms of basketball. Probably my hardest year I've ever gone through, and on top of that, I got injured that year. But being able to play immediately would be huge. I mean, I think eventually in the long run it helped me sitting out just because I was able to, develop my game more and become more into a point guard. And, I was going against in practice probably the best defender in the country at that point. So that helped me that year, being able to have that year just to get ready for the next season. But for those guys that really, just enjoy and love playing the game and just love being a part of that camaraderie and being able to travel with the team, that'd be huge for those guys.
Rotnei, was that Ronald Norred? Was he still there?
Yes.
Okay. I think, I can imagine. I think, too, the Elite 8 win or Sweet 16 that they had over Syracuse, at the end of the game, he strips the guy clean and they end up winning it. Dude was just a gamer on defense.
Yeah, oh, man. And then I had no choice but to get better that year. I mean, he made me look silly a lot in practice, but it made me a better player. So that was very fortunate to be able to go head-to-head with him every day.
To a much lesser degree, it's kind of like for just everyday Joes when we go to college and we go to the Hyper, there's dudes that could have played college ball. It's like, okay, I got to improve before I actually step on the court with some of these guys.
Yeah.
Rotnei, take me back to that transfer process because I've read stories and stuff, but I kind of want your opinion.
I never really got, I didn't have Twitter at that time. I didn't have Instagram. I had Facebook, but I wasn't really active on there. Didn't really put much on there. So I actually, I think back now that I've grown up and matured a little bit, and, after all those years, I think, man, I just wish I would have had like a Twitter then to where I could kind of just get it all out there, what I was feeling, what's going on, so I could actually tell people what I was feeling and what actually was happening at that point. And I think it would have helped, honestly, just because I think that there were a lot of things thrown out there that weren't true, that people were assuming, and it was tough for me because, for me being at Arkansas for 3 years, in the relationships I made with the fans, just across the state, and that was the worst part for me, is I was letting those people down in my mind, and I knew they thought that. So, now I'd probably just say with the transfer and everything, I had at that point, I just knew in my heart I needed to make the best decision for me because I knew going on I was going to try and play professionally, and I need to, with the change of coach and all the situation that was going on, I just felt like at that point, I'd done everything that I could. I'd done everything the right way, for 3 years, and loved the state, loved the fans. They loved me back at that point, and I just felt it was the best for me in my heart. And I went in to get my release, and I was told that I wasn't going to get it and that they'd think about it. And, it was a couple days, and finally thought, man, this isn't good. So I'd actually been told at that point that there was going to be a cutoff, that if they didn't give me my release, I probably would end up having to stay. And I actually stayed the first month or two with Mike. I met him, met his whole staff. I liked it. Very good guys, very good people. And I had nothing bad to say about any of them. But I think it was actually Scotty Thurman who kind of taught me into just trying it out for a month and trying it out for, through the summer. And so I did that because I really respected Scotty, and just wasn't right. And I just felt just in my heart that I needed to do what's best for me, and ended up doing that. And I think that people kind of took it the wrong way and rubbed it in the wrong way with how it happened. Some of the stuff with, coming out, on social media and stuff like that. That wasn't my intention. I never wanted to make it a big thing about myself or anything. I wish that I could have gone in there and they said, yeah, hey, we appreciate you 3 years. And, that's what I expected going in there, was to get my release immediately. And when it kind of got blocked there at the start, that's when I kind of started worrying, okay, well, am I even going to be able to get it? So finally ended up getting it, and it ended up working out for the best. But I wish I could have just, updated people and kind of let them know what was going on through my mind and in my heart at that point. I think it would have helped a lot.
Yeah, and I think with social media, man, there's bad things that come along with social media. But it was really hard for players to get their voice out, not just in your time.
Yeah.
I think the other thing you brought up, you spent 3 years at Arkansas. It wasn't just one and done, I'm leaving, but you spent 3 of your years at Arkansas. I know a lot of listeners right now really appreciate that. And you moved on to Butler. What did you learn, Rotnei, about Brad Stevens when it comes to the game of basketball?
I knew from day one. I knew he was good, just because obviously, they've been back-to-back national championship games, and you hear so much about him. So I knew coming in, I knew he was going to surprise. He was going to be the real deal. But it wasn't until I got there that I was like, wow, this guy might be the best coach in the world, like literally on the planet. And just by his everyday approach to the game, like just his coaching, and I think his number one thing for me was, he just had a different way of getting to you. He really rarely raised his voice, but you would still, like, for guys like me, I just wanted to run through a brick wall for him. And he wasn't like trying to fire. He didn't have to fire us up or anything like that. You just wanted to play hard for the guy. And we went into every game, and he made us believe into every game, we're going to win this game. Like, there's no reason for us not to win this game. He is that well prepared, and I think he's probably he's the best for sure I've ever been around. And a lot of people say the same thing in out of bounds timeout situations. Just the way he can draw up a play and just think the game and react to what's going on the court. He's unbelievable. And aside from that, just off the court, he's probably one of the best coaches in terms of just good people that I've ever been around. He's a family guy, and he's just about the right things and doing the right things. So it was pretty cool to be able to be under him for 2 years.
Rotnei, we had Sidney Moncrief on last week, and one of the things he said about Eddie Sutton, he said, we never felt like we were going to be outcoached. It sounds like you're kind of sharing the same thoughts when it comes to Brad Stevens.
The year I got there, those guys had, obviously Gordon Hayward and those guys had kind of moved on, but they'd come back in the summer and work out with me, and they talked about Brad when they were playing it. It's just, they're a team in the Horizon League, and at that point when they were getting to the tournament, and they're winning 30. I think they went 31-5 or something the first year, maybe the second year, and they're talking about, we went into every game. North Carolina, whoever we were playing, we had the belief we were going to win. We were going to win the game, and it didn't matter who was stepping on the floor. He just had that. They just had that mindset. Like they knew he was the best. He was going to be. He wasn't going to get outcoached, and so it was their job as players to perform. And if they did, they believe they're going to win the game.
Rotnei, let me top off the interview with this, man. A lot of people want to know kind of what you're doing now, and I went to the same high school as your wife, so I didn't know if you were in Little Rock working out at Little Rock Christian or something like that. But just kind of update everyone where you're at now and just kind of what's going on with your life.
Yeah, well, I've been playing the past. This is my 7th year playing professionally. I've been all around the world. I've been to Australia, Belgium, Germany, Italy. So we've been blessed to see a lot of places. I actually have 3 kids now. They'll be married for 6 years this summer, and I have a 4-year-old named Kaya. She's a girl. I have 2 boys, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, Dre and Cannon. So actually we got some crazy stories. Dre was born in Australia, and my youngest son Cannon was born in Italy this past year, 2 years ago. So I've been busy with my wife, and we just traveling the world and seeing all the different things, and then just playing the game of basketball. I've been pretty blessed, and we're pretty blessed, and actually bought a house here in Fayetteville, so I'll be here for good, and plan on being here for good. And who knows, man, my kids will be going to school up here in Northwest Arkansas eventually when I'm done playing. So I'm looking forward to that.
And maybe you'll get into coaching one day. Who knows? Seems like you.
We'll see.
You might have it. Rotnei Clarke, Rotnei, I really appreciate it, man, and I can't leave without this. Loved going to Arkansas basketball camps as a kid, and Rotnei used to be one of my counselors back in the day, so I had to get that in there before we close you out.
That's cool.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate you spending some time with us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.